So hello, welcome back. I'm Dr. Richard Johnson, and I'm really pleased to be with you today to talk about the second installment of our series in the power of virtue. And today we are talking about, or the title for today's episode, if I could put it that way, is what is the value of virtue? Remember, last time we had what is virtue, and now we're saying, well, what's the value of it? Why even do this thing called virtue? What does it do for you? Living a virtuous life bestows many gifts on us at every stage of our life. Our true heart's desire, if you really look deeply into it, is to find love and to love. So you can love and you can find love in many different ways here, but if you compacted the whole issue of love into one word, if you tried to find one word that might define how we can best do this thing, if I could put it that way, this thing called love, this process, whatever, it would be virtue. So virtue comes from love, and virtue allows us to love. So in general, I can confidently say that virtue provides us with the foundation for true happiness. So in this session, I've identified 4, what can I call them, sought after benefits of virtue. There are many benefits of virtue, but I've chosen 4 of them here in this section so that you can get a grasp of them. The first one, the first out of the 4, is that virtue offers you a sense of meaning in life meaning. And let me just read this little quote, I like this. To find true happiness, you need a deep-rooted sense of meaning in your life. Meaning. Who doesn't want life meaning? But really, what is life meaning? Meaning is a fundamental human need. Without meaning, we start to wither. So meaning is a felt sense that you are sort of living your life on track, that you are on target with your life. Simply stated, those of us who find personal meaning in life seem to be happier. People who don't seem to find or have a difficulty finding meaning in your life are not as happy. And if left unchecked, this, quote, unhappiness place in you means that we lose our life vigor, the vigor for life. And this erodes our personality. And if we let that go on, this erosion in our personality, it leads to some things which aren't very good. And really what we call it in spirituality is desolation. In psychology or psychiatry, we call it depression. We've all heard of that. So let me ask you these questions. Where will you find more meaning in life? In the virtue of peace or in its shadow of contention? In the virtue of adaptability or in its shadow of rigidity? In the virtue of steadfastness or in the shadow of unreliability? In the virtue of trust or in the shadow of insecurity? In the virtue of harmony or in the shadow of chaos? I think you see where we're going. It's in virtue where we find meaning in life. Pursuing virtue is tantamount to pursuing happiness in one's life. So as you intentionally are more and more propelled by virtue, you quite gradually and even effortlessly begin to expand the life meaning in your life, in your heart. You can recognize and make some sense out of the ongoing encounter with God in the depths of your soul. You can experience the soothing relationship essentials of connectedness and life-giving ministry, and the life-giving ministry of healthy attachment. You can uncover deeper understanding of your life and all of its encounters. You can go beyond the surface of your life and experience a deeper fullness of the depth of holiness in your life. You can discover a true inner desires or the inner desires of your heart. All of this is powered by virtue. The second large thing or process that we can find with virtue here, what is the purpose of virtue, is that virtue gives us life purpose. I like this quote. You feel that extraordinary inner sensation of meaning only when you live out and in your life purpose. So you're really created by God for a singular purpose, and that is to enhance and embrace that you are unconditionally loved by God, and then to return this love out to God's children out there. In other words, your life becomes an instrument of love and nothing more. Now that sounds like a big statement, and it actually is. It takes us only one lifetime to sort of learn that, and some of us never do. Yet, who can measure the variety of ways that this purpose is expressed in the world? Purpose is really a many-faceted diamond, and each of us have different facets that will shine in our life, and that shining in our life is what brings meaning, because meaning flows from having a purpose, and meaning and purpose are both undergirded, if I could put it that way, by virtue. Holding on to a firm purpose in life converts desolation, woundedness, and brokenness into an illuminating consolation. A sense of purpose, that is, believing that you do matter, that your life is good, and that you are on a meaningful path, has been shown in some really rigorous psychological studies to improve better health. Let me give you just one of these. This is a particularly intriguing study. It comes from the Rush University Medical Center in Chicago, where researchers have been studying more than 1,500 people since 1997. And the researchers are seeking something very specific. They want to determine whether having a strong life purpose might bolster the brain here and perhaps stimulating memory and strengthening executive functioning, so-called, in the brain. Now, to measure this sense of purpose, they developed a profile called the Sense of Purpose Profile, and it asked questions like this. Some people wander aimlessly through life, but I'm not one of them. And you put that on a scale of 1 to 10. Or a question like this, or a statement. I feel good when I think of what I've done in the past and what I hope to do in the future. So high scores on this sense of profile, felt a number of things. They felt there is a rich meaning in their present and past life. They held beliefs that gave their life purpose. They had aims and objectives for living. Low scorers, on the other hand, were found to lack a sense of meaning in life. They had few specific goals or aims in life. They seemed to lack a personal direction. They found it difficult to see purpose in their past life. And they seemed to have an anemic outlook or beliefs that didn't give their life a whole lot of meaning. So another interesting thing, researchers built on all these findings and about how many they were able to actually look into the brains. They do this electronically with scans. And for all these people that were in the study, they looked and said, well, how many of the dementia-causing amyloid plaques and tau tangles were present in the brain compared with the physical findings of how participants had scored on their sense of purpose profile. So they're taking this physical data of brain scans and putting it together with the information they developed or gleaned from the profile. Incredibly, those who scored high on their sense of purpose survey were just as likely to have dementia-causing plaques and tau tangles in their brains as the ones who scored low. However, despite having the same level of plaques and tangles, those with a strong sense of purpose scored higher on the tests for memory and thinking. That's pretty incredible, that the brain was showing that you've got these thought and memory blocking and executive functioning blocking tau tangles and amyloid plaques up there, but they're not showing it. What they are showing is that they've got purpose, they've got direction. Where does that come from? Virtue. Actually, the lead researcher in this study, a woman by the name of Patricia Boyd, she's the lead author, and the article appeared in the Archives of General Psychiatry. She summarized, she said, these findings suggest that the purpose in life protects against the harmful effects of amyloid plaques and tau tangles on memory and other thinking abilities. This is encouraging and suggests that engaging in meaningful and purposeful activities promotes cognitive health in later life. And I might add to say here, I have done my research on some of this and connected the better your cognitions, the better you'll be able to move forward in not only your physical and emotional life and maybe career life, but also your spiritual life. Your brain has to work well in order for you to be able to do that. The third factor I want to discuss today is that virtue motivates you. Here's another quote I like. Motivation is regarded as the most critical factor in maintaining a strong, positive mental attitude, the key ingredient to true happiness. Positive mental attitude. How do you keep a positive mental attitude? Pretty good question. So, what is motivation? Motivation is the energy that drives you. It fortifies your efforts, and it powers you through frustrations, pressures of all kinds, and fear. Most of all, motivation gives you the energy to continue on in your life journey, the inner drive to go the extra mile, and to reach for new heights of life performance, even in the face of what others might call pain, suffering, and even tragedy. In other words, you've got fortitude, which happens to be a virtue. Motivation, then, I consider as the meta competency in your personality to push on, to ignite your purpose, to keep your stamina and fortitude intact. It is your thoughts, then, that determine how and what motivates you. It's your thinking. Thinking is a cognitive function. Actually, it's one of the 6 functions of the personality. So let me ask you this. What motivates you more? Is it the virtue of joy, or is it the shadow of dejection? Is it the virtue of trust, or the shadow of insecurity? Is it the virtue of love finder, or is it the shadow of fault seeker? Is it the virtue of empathy, or the shadow of obtuseness? Is it the virtue of gratitude, or its shadow blaming? I think the answers to those questions are pretty obvious. Again, what are we finding here? Virtue motivates. It gives us purpose, it gives us meaning, it gives us, number 3, motivation. And the fourth thing I want to talk about today is that virtue begets peace of mind and heart. Peace of mind and heart has been determined by some people, I'm one of them, that it adds up to what? True happiness. If you have peace of mind and heart, peace is a virtue, then you find true happiness. So let's go. Without the virtue of peace, how could you ever do these things? Listen to the great quiet within you. Find harmony and concord in virtually everything you encounter. How could you know that you live in the celestial security and of serenity? How could you live in the state and place where love abides? All of these things you couldn't do without the virtue, in this case, of peace. And without the virtue of empathy, which is a close kissing cousin of this, how could you ever embrace the joy and the pain in you and more specifically in others? Empathy propels you to do these things, to be totally with the children of God, that is everyone, to understand abundantly the total inner experience of another, to become acutely aware of the totality of your feelings as a profound expression of emotional intimacy, to walk in another person's emotional shoes, to want to be with another, and to comfort another in pain, and also to show yourself self-compassion. So, to summarize, what is the value of virtue? Well, we've seen that virtue offers you a life of enhanced meaning. It offers you the true God-given, purpose-driven calling. It offers you heightened motivation and consequently a stronger mental attitude, positive mental attitude. And finally, what we covered today, virtue offers a deeper peace of mind and trust in your heart. So how can I end this? Simply by saying, virtue connects you to God's truth, beauty, and goodness. And together, they form the foundation for true inner happiness. Thanks so much. I hope you've enjoyed what we've done here today. I'll look forward to being with you next time. God bless.